Hi nerds! My name is Jacqueline and welcome to my channel, Jacqueline Discovers Books. I'm on a quest to read 100 books in 2021. So let's talk some books, shall we? I'm really excited about the month to come, November, because of Nonfiction November. So this year I discovered BookTube for the first time. I discovered ABookOlive's page and I heard about this Nonfiction November, and so I've been really excited about that. I didn't know what I liked and what I didn't like before starting this quest this year, so I'm discovering that I like a lot of nonfiction. So I've read 75 books so far this year, and 49 of those have been nonfiction. So that comes out to be about 66% of my reading this year has been nonfiction. And so I am planning to just dedicate my whole month of November to only nonfiction, which is not that far off from what I already do. So, but it's interesting because when I was looking back using my story graph, only two out of my 7 5-star books were nonfiction, and 6 of my 7 2-star books were nonfiction. So you would think that I don't like nonfiction, but there's so many that I do also really like. 20 out of 37 4 stars were nonfiction. So it's hard for them to get over that hump to 5 stars, I guess, but there are lots that I have liked this year. In another video, I'm going to talk more about the nonfiction I've already read this year, but today I want to focus on the books that I plan to read in November. So here's what I've got. Using Storygraph, I weeded out my TBR to only the nonfiction books. So I only keep 50 books on my TBR at any given time, and 24 of those were nonfiction. So after going through those, I wrote down the ones that I either have here in person, a physical copy, or that I have at the library where there wouldn't be a hold that would be too long. Now, I'm falling behind on my reading goal for the year, which is 100 books. I'm only at 75 right now. I plan to be at about 78 by the end of October, which means I'd have to read, I think, 11 books. I can't do math, but I think I have to do 11 books in the month of November and December. So I want to pick out 11 nonfiction books for the month of November. So I'm just going to read you the list of what I've got, and then we'll talk through a few of them. I have Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I have a physical copy of that. I had a friend who was getting rid of this, so I told her I wanted it. This is listed as nonfiction, although I think it's told as a fictional story, but it's a true crime story. And Storygraph says it's nonfiction, so we're counting that. Book of Gutsy Women. This is written by Hillary and Chelsea Clinton. Each chapter is about a different woman in history. Could be a fun read. I have Lincoln's Melancholy. This is a book I have on audio with the library. This is a book about Lincoln's depression and how it affected his life and his presidency. Could be a little bit of a downer, but I'm really interested. I read another nonfiction earlier this year about Garfield, and I really am interested in reading more about presidents and their personal lives. I also read 41, which is about Bush 41, and that was really interesting as well. So I'm interested in that one for sure. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. This sounds fascinating to me. I've heard it referenced a lot in just pop culture, and I've never read it, and I think it talks about the importance of women having the space of their own, literally and figuratively, and it's a short read actually too. That one I would have as an ebook from the library. I'm definitely interested in that. Talking to Strangers, I've talked about this one before. This is by Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about how people miscommunicate, I think is what the main point of that book is. and what bad things can come from miscommunicating. The Other Wes Moore. This I have on audio tape, like I'm a 100-year-old lady. I have this on audiobook from the library. This is about two men in Baltimore, I believe, who are named Wes Moore. They're both from the same neighborhood, and they both have very different lives. So it kind of is a conversation around why people succeed and then why others don't, I think. How they both came from a bad neighborhood with broken families, in poverty, and had different stories in the end. I'm really intrigued about that. And apparently one of them who was in jail and the other one was very successful. The successful one contacted the man in jail, and there was a conversation back and forth about their lives. That's all I know about it. It sounds fascinating. The next one I have is called Over a Thousand Hills, I Walk With You. This is one of my coworkers' favorite books. This is a true story about a girl during the Rwandan genocide. I don't know anything else about it. I have it as an ebook from the library. The Demon Haunted World. I have a physical copy of that. This is by Carl Sagan. I'm really fascinated about this. It just talks about how can we make intelligent decisions as technology becomes more and more a part of our lives. How do people differentiate between pseudoscience and myths and real science? Things that are very relevant to today's world. So I'm interested in this. It feels a little daunting and long, but I'm interested. The next one is Why Fish Don't Exist. I just found this at the bookstore a couple weeks ago. This is Olive from ABookOlive's favorite nonfiction book of 2020, I believe. And so she reads a lot of nonfiction, so if she likes it, I want to read it. That one is definitely going on the list. The Optimistic Workplace I have as an audiobook. I don't know anything about it, but Lord knows I need some hope for an optimistic workplace. So I definitely want to get to that this month too. All About Love I have as an ebook by Bell Hooks. I don't know anything about it except that it's about love and first loving yourself, and it just sounded beautiful. So it's on the list. I Thought It Was Just Me by Brene Brown. So I have this in a physical copy. This is the first book that she ever published before she became the Brene Brown. It says, making the journey from what will people think to I am enough. I'm just really interested to read her first work. Selfish, Shallow, and Self-Absorbed. This is a collection of essays from women who didn't have children about why they chose not to have children, or just their commentary and their thoughts about having a life without children. I'm interested in that because I'm kind of at an age where I have to make some decisions about what I want to do with myself. So I want to hear all the angles. Next I have on my list is Coddling of the American Mind. This was a recommendation from my sister-in-law. She said it was one of her favorite books, and so I have that as an audiobook online, and so I'm definitely interested in that. So how many books is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now again, these are the books that I had already physical copies of, or I have access to them from the library on either an audio or ebook out of the 24 that I had listed on my TBR. So I want to read at least 11 of these. I don't know how to cut them down. Audio I have is Lincoln's Melancholies audio, Talking to Strangers, The Other Wes Moore, The Optimistic Workplace, The Selfish, Shallow, and Self-Absorbed, and Coddling of the American Mind. Those are ones that are all audio. I can definitely get through those quicker and easier, so I'm going to go ahead and say I'm probably going to read all of those. How many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 5 more. Okay, so I know I have the 6 audiobooks. I know I definitely want to read Why Fish Don't Exist, and I have that in physical copy, so that's 7. So now I need 4 more. So hard. I think I'm going to do Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I've had that book since January of 2021 when I started this whole challenge, and it's been sitting on my bookshelf, so it's time to get that one done. I really want to read A Room of One's Own also. That one has been top of my list, and it's also short, so we can get it done. Okay, so that's 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 2 more. I don't think I want to do the Gutsy Women this month because it's surprisingly long. Maybe it has a lot of pictures or something. I haven't investigated, but it had a lot of pages. Let's do All About Love, because that one seems a little more optimistic and sweet, and some of the other ones I have are a little heavy. And let's do some Brene Brown, because why not? Okay, so that gets me to 11 books. I have to read 11 books this month to stay on track, get back on track, and then 11 books in December, and then I've hit my goal of 100, which is crazy. So I've got Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, Lincoln's Melancholy, A Room of One's Own, Talking to Strangers, The Other Wes Moore, Why Fish Don't Exist, The Optimistic Workplace, All About Love, I Thought It Was Just Me, Selfish, Shallow, and Self-Absorbed, and Coddling of the American Mind. There you go, folks. My TBR for Nonfiction November. I have loved watching the videos of what others are reading. If anyone has any suggestions based on the books that you see that I'm reading, that I'm interested in, would love to hear about them. And see you again soon.